In this video, we're going to look at the costs and benefits of these big-time college sports programs. And let's first talk about the revenue side. At most universities, a bulk of the athletic department's revenue is going to come from two sports, mostly football, but to a lesser extent, men's basketball. This is particularly true for schools that are in the Power 5 conferences, which we've talked about in previous video, that these schools dominate college football and basketball both athletically and financially. At schools in the FBS, the Football Bowl subdivision, there are 128 schools that participated in bowls, and they're now eligible for the college football playoff. And the revenue from football dwarfs even that from men's basketball with a lot of these. So this table over here shows the market value revenue for the market value and revenue for the 20 most valuable football programs in college, and it's as of, I believe, does it say here? No, I believe it's 2015 or 16, so it's a little bit older, but you can see that the revenue in millions of dollars is very, very high. So these programs are bringing in a lot of revenue. You can also see the market value of them is very high as well. Now, it is worth noting that unlike with the NFL, it should be noted that there is a lot of difference in revenue between the high revenue teams and the low revenue teams. So a couple other sources of revenue. So first you have gate and venue revenue. Now gate revenue, when people pay tickets to go to the games, it used to be the most important source of income for college sports, but it has steadily declined in percentage-wise, mainly because of the revenue that has been coming from television and other sources. In 2014 and 15, athletic departments in the Power 5 conferences got about a fifth of their overall revenue from ticket sales. And that was almost all of it from football and men's basketball. Now, the venues have become a more important source of income, just as with the NFL in particular, because of things like the naming rights of their facilities, luxury boxes, and club seating. Now, with some notable exceptions, colleges do not receive the bulk of their broadcasting revenue directly from televising their games, but rather from the distributions from the conferences or the NCAA. Okay. So this just shows some of the broadcasting revenue that comes in from football, and this is in millions of dollars. So you can see that the amount of money that is being paid to for the conferences is very, very high, in the tens of millions of dollars. And again, so that money goes to the league, or the conference rather, and then the conference is the one who pays out the schools for that. Right? So the individual teams are not negotiating these. The revenue from bowl games is another big source of revenue coming in. The Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl, Cotton Bowl games are the four oldest bowl games and have traditionally been the most prestigious and also the ones that tend to bring in the most money. Now, these games are also dominated by the Power 5 conferences. And there's dozens of other bowl games, but they are much smaller. They're not played by as popular of teams, and the money that comes in from them is not the same. So all revenue from the bowl games goes directly to the conferences, and a bulk of that goes to the Power 5 conferences, not the NCAA. Okay, and so you can see where a lot of these conferences, how much payout they're getting from these. And you can also see for the different bowl games, the Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl, Fiesta, and Peach Bowl, it's the amount of money that the teams are making for these is very, very substantial. And this is a lot of money that can come in from these that can be very beneficial to the teams. But the problem is when you have it dominated by a few conferences, where that money is going is very highly concentrated. The NCAA basketball tournament, March Madness as known, is run by the NCAA. Right. The NCAA has a 14-year television contract with that's worth over or nearly $11 billion. And about 60% of that goes to the member schools. A lot of it based on the number of scholarships the school provides or sports. But it's not based on performance. Now, unlike football, that doesn't create as much of a disadvantage for the smaller schools. Because even the smaller schools who do not do as well, they may get similar payouts from this as the larger schools such as Michigan, Ohio State, Duke, Notre Dame, and so forth. So a large portion of the revenue for basketball at least is split pretty evenly. And so there is a portion that is dependent on team performance, but it's a relatively small portion. Right. So that's the revenue side. On the cost side, there are a couple ways to look. So you have the benefits of having these programs, but they have to pay for stuff as well. Now, the one cost and the biggest cost is scholarships. Athletes at these FBS schools are estimated to represent about 14% of the average athletic department's budget. All right. You also have coaches' salaries. So in 2016, the highest paid government employees in 27 states was the state's university's football coach. And a basketball coach was the highest paid in 12 states. For example, in 2016, Jim Harbaugh was paid over $9 million for the 2016 season. John Calipari, the basketball coach in Kentucky, made $7.1 million. Overall, the median head coach's salary in 2016 was about 5.8% of the team's total revenue. Now, if head coaches in the NFL received a similar percentage of the team's revenue, the median salary would be $18.5 million. So this is more than double what the highest paid NFL coach was paid in 2016, which was Sean Payton at $8 million. So basically, with colleges, the college head coaches are paid a much higher percentage of the overall team revenue than in professional sports. We also have capital expenditures. Spending on college football stadiums resembles those of NFL teams. In 2014, for example, 48 schools in the Power 5 conferences combined to spend over $770 million on other athletic facilities. So these teams are putting in a lot of money into these new stadiums, or the schools are rather, putting a lot of money into these new stadiums, which does have to be paid for. So, this is yes, they have money coming in from revenue, but they also have expenses, and a lot of times pretty heavy expenses. So the question comes then is, do colleges make a profit from athletics? Now, these schools also receive subsidies, and if you count the subsidies as revenue, about 85% of the public schools in the Power 5 conferences have profitable athletic departments. Now, without the subsidies from the government that they receive, from the state governments, the figure drops to about 42.3%. So basically, the public subsidies a lot of times will determine if these programs are profitable for the school or not. Now, a lot of times these non-big time programs actually end up taking a loss. All right, so if they are not bringing in all that revenue that a lot of these Power 5 conferences are, they may be taking a pretty big loss. And so if we look at this in general, so you have the revenue, expenditure, and then the public subsidies they are receiving. Yes, a lot of these bigger schools or bigger conferences do make profits, but when you factor in the subsidies, however, they're actually taking, a lot of them are taking losses. So the question is, is if you take out the subsidies, would they be profitable? And in a lot of cases, no. And so, is that because of the revenue side? Is it because of the expense side? Is it a combination? A lot of times the combination, but this just gives a brief overview of the costs and benefits of these big time sports college programs.